The last thing I want to do in this section is to help everybody to utilize technology to be able to solve these systems of differential equations. The easiest technology we can use is Wolfram Alpha. It's very forgiving. It doesn't require any programming like MATLAB or Mathematica or a computer algebra system of that sort, but it is pretty useful. So we've already seen how to solve differentials. Like earlier we saw something like if I wanted to solve y prime plus y equals 1, we could see very easily that it would go through, it would just find its separable differential equation. If it was easy enough, it would classify it, and Wolfram Alpha would go through and solve it. But what about systems? Well, it does it as well. So you might remember one of our first examples. In fact, it was the first example of a system that we solved. You might remember we had solve. We had x prime equals minus 3x plus 2y, and then I'm going to separate the equations with a comma. Y prime is going to be equal to negative 3x plus 4y. All right. Now we did have initial values on this, so let's not worry about the initial conditions at this point, but let's see if it will give us a general solution. And in fact, it does give us the general solution. You might remember we did get a general solution beforehand. Wolfram Alpha probably factors it, okay, and it factors it a little bit weird. So to get the same answer that we got by doing it by by substitution, you might have to distribute the 2/5 c2 e to the minus 2x just to get the same answer that we did. All right. Now, if we want to get the initial condition, what we can do is we could just do another comma, and you might remember that x at 0 was equal to 1, and that y at 0 was equal to 1. All right. And we can just go through. We can execute that command, and what it does is it goes through and it solves, giving us the solutions right away for this. Okay. I was trying to see if it gave us a graph of any of these, but if you really wanted a graph of these, you could just go through and plug them both into a different grapher, like with Matplotlib or Desmos or GeoGebra or something like that. All right. You might remember in the last video we had this differential equation. So we had this one, which was really tough for us to do. We used Laplace transforms, and it took us a good probably like 25 minutes of video to be able to solve this one. So for me to check that, obviously, would be really difficult if I wanted to go through and do it by hand. But usually what I do is I just throw them into Wolfram Alpha, and then I just execute it. All right. And it does give us the solutions. All right. Again, be careful because it does factor it. Wolfram Alpha does a really good job in factoring. In fact, too good of a job. All right. What I usually do is if it's a really long sort of solution, what I might do is I might just click on the solution. And what it'll do is if you go down just a little bit, it gives you an alternative form. And I'm pretty certain that this is the solution that we got for the initial condition to that. Okay, so just pretty cool that we're able to solve these systems using technology. So I would urge you all to go through and use Wolfram Alpha once you've gone through and done it by hand to verify your answer. And if you don't get the same answer, then first of all, check your input because you might have made a sign error or a multiplication error or something like that in your input for this syntax. But if the syntax is all correct, then I would go back and check your algebra. Make sure you didn't make any sign errors or something like that. So a really cool tool that's free that you can go through and at least check your solutions with.